Okay, as you see, I was on my Instagram for Rojo Chief Clothing, and I'm clicking on my online clothing store. And on here, I have clothes. I got hoodies, sweatshirts. You know, if you like to buy them, long sleeve, short sleeve. I'm clicking on hoodies right now for men, and that's one. And then I'm clicking back just to show you fashions that I have for women. Like I have long sleeve shirt. Okay. Then I even have clothing for babies as well. And kids. So that's the onesie. You can get that in different colors. As well as t-shirts, hoodies, and long sleeves for kids. So now, let's get ready for the show. Okay, so we're going to look at a government website from United States government and them telling you about what happened when the American Indians, aka Black Americans, aka African Americans, what happened in the 1800s when they were freed from slavery and they were trying to set up colonies on the west coast of Africa. Okay. Now it says founding of Liberia, 1847. The founding of Liberia in the early 1800s was motivated by the domestic politics of slavery and race in the United States, as well as by U.S. foreign policy interests. In 1816, a group of white Americans founded the American Colonization Society to deal with the problem of the growing number of free blacks in the United States by resettling them in Africa. It says the resulting state of Liberia will become the second after Haiti Black Republic in the time. It says Joseph Jenkins Roberts, first president of Liberia. Prominent Americans such as Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, John Randolph were amongst the best known members of the ACS. Former President Thomas Jefferson publicly supported the organization's goal, and President James Madison arranged public funding for the society. The motives for joining the society were vast, as the range of people that, from abolitionists to slaveholders, counted themselves to be members. On the other hand, many abolitionists, both black and white, ultimately rejected the notion that it was impossible for races to integrate and therefore did not support the idea of an African American colony in Africa. The ACS had powerful support of the colonization project gained momentum. In 1818, the society sent 2 representatives to West Africa to find a suitable location for the colony, but they were unable to persuade local tribal leaders to sell any territory. In 1820, 88 free black settlers and 3 society members sailed for Sierra Leone. Before departing, they had signed a constitution requiring that an agent of the society administer the settlement under U.S. laws. They found shelter on Cherbourg Island off the west coast of Africa, but many died from malaria. In 1821, a U.S. Navy vessel resumed the search for a place for permanent settlement, of which is now Liberia. Once again, the local leaders resisted American attempts to purchase land. Okay, so the natives, the Aborigines of West Africa was like, no, we're not going to sell you the land and give it to, the Indians, because probably they were already telling them like, no, they're not our people. We don't want them over here probably. That's probably what the argument was about. And it says the Navy officer in charge, Lieutenant Robert Stockton, coerced a local ruler to sell a strip of land to the society. The Cherbourg Island group moved to this new location, and other blacks from the United States joined them. The local tribes continually attacked the new colony, and in 1824, the settlers built fortifications for protection. In the same year, the settlement was named Liberia, and its capital was Monrovia in honor of President James Monroe, who had procured more U.S. government money for the project. Okay. So that's telling you right there that the chiefs, the African chiefs and the locals, the indigenous Aborigines over in Africa, that they know that the American Indians or Red Indians misnomered African Americans, that they knew the difference clear away between their people and the American Indians that was coming over there to get land and to escape the racism and other prejudice that existed in their homeland. And basically, it was a whole fail. It was a whole failure because the African people did not want the American Indians to settle on their land, and it was in constant conflict. And even now, there's a lot of conflict in that region against the American Indians that went over to the west coast of Africa to settle. And let's look at this article. It says, Kush, Sierra Leone drug mixed with human bones.
In Sierra Leone, a new drug is turning young people into zombies.
Take a look at the youth on the streets. They are trapped. They work only to buy drugs, nothing else, trust me.
They call it Kush, dried leaves mixed with a cocktail of chemicals. In just 3 years, it's taken over.
Kush take you to another world where you don't know yourself.
See na something we mix with demonic something. You see company die, then still the taker.
As the impact of Africa's worst drug epidemic deepens, disturbing reports have emerged about the newest ingredient, human bones.
So the coffin and everything is there, but they just took the bones.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this man in front of me no more. I hate him.
Grace is a mother consumed with hate. Her family now another statistic of South Africa's rampant child abuse.
Feel bad. Feel bad.
Her daughter, who we'll call Ruth, was raped. She's just 10, still a child.
That guy, she come. Me, I'm going to the toilet. She come to the toilet. I say, no, Malum. I in the toilet, go outside. She come to the toilet and close my mouth with close. That means she closed my mouth with close. And she
and it happened virtually in front of her parents.
Okay, y'all. I'm going on an Indians page that is a part of the American Indians. He is a Arawak Indian, and some of his heritage comes from, I believe, Haiti, and part of his heritage comes from Jamaica. So here it is. Let's look at this video right here. It says Africans are killing Americans from the continent, not just Gambia. Everywhere it's not reported on TV. Now let's look at this.
Criminal element in Gambia is sending Black Americans a message. And that message is, you are not wanted here. That's the message.
You still think you're African?
The robberies, the phone snatching, the hassles in regards to land, the double talk, all of that is really just a symptom of a larger issue, which is that Black Americans are not particularly welcome in the Gambia. Those who ignore this criminal element do so at their own peril, because what's happening is this criminal element is picking off diasporans one by one. And the more naive you are, the better for them, because you never see them coming. Now, we know there's a criminal element, but here's what you might not know. There is a growing underbelly that is specifically coming together in Gambia to wage war on the Black Americans that are coming there. And therefore, they are making sure that they do everything possible to make you feel unwelcome and unsafe. And I would say right now, they are 1-0. If this were a football game, they'd be many yards touchdowning as opposed to Black Americans, because Black Americans have refused to be honest about this criminal element.
R.I.P. to this queen who passed away 5 days ago in the Gambia.
Okay, here's another country called Mozambique. Police warn bald men from ritual attack. This was published by the British Broadcasting Company. It says here, Mozambique police warn bald men after ritual attack. June 7, 2017. Bald men in Mozambique could be targets of ritual attacks, police have warned, after the recent killing of 5 men for their body parts. 2 suspects have been arrested in the central district of Milan, where killings occurred. The belief is that the head of a bald man contains gold, said Afonso Diaz, a police commander in Mozambique, Central Zambeza province. Albino people have also been killed in the region for ritual purposes. 3 men have been killed in the past week alone. The BBC's Jose Timba, in the capital of Maputo, says police think the notion of a bald head containing gold is a ruse by witch doctors to get clients to take a person's head to them. Their motive comes from superstition and culture. The local community thinks bald individuals are rich. Commander Diaz is reported as having told a press conference. The suspects are 2 Mozambicans aged around 20. Okay. Here's a picture of Frederick Douglas, The Folly of Colonization. Frederick Douglass, January 9th, 1894. But now comes to another proposition held up as a solution of a rare problem, and this is, I consider, equally unworthy, with one just disposed of. The 2 belong to the same low-breed family of ideas. It is the proposition to colonize the colored people of America and Africa or somewhere else. Happily, this scheme will be defeated both by its impolicy and its impracticability. It is all nonsense to talk about the removal of 8 million of the American people from their homes in America to Africa. The expense and hardship, to say nothing of cruelty, attending such a measure would make success impossible. The American people are wicked, but they are not fools. They will hardly be disposed in incur the expense, to say nothing of the injustice which this measure demands. Nevertheless, the colonizing scheme, unworthy as it is in American statesmanship, American honor, and though full of mischief to the colored people, seems to have a strong hold on the public mind and at times has shown much life and vigor. The bad thing about it is it has of late, owing the prosecution, begun to advocated by colored men, acknowledging the ability of learning, and every little thing some white statesmen become his advocate. Those gentlemen would doubtlessly have their opinion of me. I certainly have mine of them. My opinion is that if they are sensible, they are insincere, and if they are insincere, they are not sensible. They ought to know that it would take more money than the cost of the late war to transport even 1/2 of the colored people of the United States to Africa. Whether this is intentional or not, they are, as I think, simply trifling with an afflicted people. They urge them to look for relief where they ought to know that relief is impossible. The only excuse they can make for the measure is that there is no hope for the Negro here and that the colored people in America owe something to Africa. The last sentimental idea makes colonization very fascinating to dreamers of both colors, but there is really no foundation for it. They tell us that we owe something to our native land. This sounds well, but when the fact is brought to view, it should never be forgotten that a man can only have one native land, and that is the land of which he is born. Bottom falls entirely out of this sentimental argument. Africa, according to her colonization advocates, is by no means modest in her demands upon us. She calls upon us to send her only our best men. She does not want our riffraff and only our best men, but these are just the men who are valuable, who wanted at home. It is true that we have a few preachers and laymen with missionary turn mind whom we might easily spare, some who would possibly do as much good by going there as staying here, but this is not the colonization's idea. Its advocates want not only the best, but millions at best. Better still, they want U.S. government to vote the money to send them there. They did not seem to see that the government votes money to send the Negro to Africa, that government may employ means to complete arrangement and compel us to go. Now I hold that the American Negro owes no more to the Negroes in Africa than he owes to the Negroes in America. There are millions of needy people over there, but there are also millions of needy people over here as well. And the millions in America need intelligent men of their own number to help them, as much as intelligent men are needed in Africa to help her people. Besides, we have to fight on our hands right here, a fight for the redemption of the whole race. And a blow struck successfully for the Negro in America is a blow struck for a Negro in Africa. For until the Negro is respected in America, we need not expect consideration elsewhere. All this native land talk, however, is nonsense. The native land of the American Negro is America. His bones, his muscles, his sinews are all American. His ancestors for 270 years have lived and labored and died on the American soil. So basically that's what Frederick Douglass had to say. So he's saying that basically the flesh and bone of the American Negroes is that it's from America and not Africa, and that the millions of American Negroes, they're on their native land, and they have a lot of help and things that need to be done here in America, just like there's a lot of work to be done over in Africa. But in his mind was that the answer is not to send American Indians, aka American Negroes, over to Africa and help those folks, but for those people, the African race, to go and help themselves with their intelligence and their know-how. And for the American Negro, aka American Indians, for them to stay in their native land and help themselves. And he said that it was basically, it didn't make sense. It was nonsense. And he basically said it was impractical and that it was never going to work. And he did not lie, because even today, the African Negro does not get along with the American Negro. Okay, which is the American Indians, because we're two different groups of people culturally. The Indian tribes over here speak a different language, have different dances, different hairstyles, etc., and even ways of how we make our music, and the clothes and the patterns of how we do our music and the patterns we use for our clothes is all different. Even the cuisine is different. Everything about us is a lot different. Okay? So the thing of it is, whenever you see a person like Steve Harvey or, T.I. or anybody else for that matter, like Kai Cenat, go over there, they were paid to tell you to go over there because they know that there's a lot of things that the African people need. And in a lot of countries, it's still undeveloped. And right here, Frederick Douglass, he knew that he was Indian. This is further substantiate my point that he knew that the black race in America is from here, it's from this land. and that their heritage and their culture is from the American continent and not the African one. It says Douglas reportedly told Caroline Dahl he was descended from a Potomac Indian, while Frederick Douglass, by his own admission, said that Captain Aaron Anthony referred to him as an Indian. And from the time to time, Douglas was mistaken for one of the noble red men of the far west. Life and Times, 1881. Hey everybody, please like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I drop a new video. Okay.